Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about another crucial part of your study permit application for Canada, and that is your proof of funds. If you want to know more about this topic, then keep on watching. Okay, so first of all, let's define what is proof of funds. Well, from the name itself, this is proof that you have funds available for your studies in Canada. Some people call this as show money, but in reality, guys, you cannot just have show money because you really need to have these funds to survive and to pursue your studies in Canada. Okay, so how much do I need to be eligible to apply for a study visa in Canada? Well, according to IRCC's guideline, a student applicant must have at least 1 year of tuition fee plus 10,000 Canadian dollars for his or her living expenses for the first year. So there's really no exact amount because the tuition fee really varies from school to school and program to program. So let me just give you an example. In my case, my tuition fee for the first year is roughly 18,000 Canadian dollars. So 18,000 plus the 10,000 required amount for my cost of living, that would be 28,000 Canadian dollars. That is the bare minimum that I should be able to meet to qualify or to be eligible to apply. But what if I am bringing my spouse or I'm bringing my kids? So that would be an additional expense as well. So if you are bringing your spouse, that would be an additional $4,000 for their living expense and $3,000 for each dependent children. So in our case, for a family of 4, 10,000 for me, 4,000 for my spouse, and 6,000 for my kids. So a total of 20,000 Canadian dollars plus my 1-year tuition fee, that is around 18,000. So we have to have at least 38,000 Canadian dollars equivalent in our bank account. Okay, so what if I am just a fresh graduate? I'm 22 years old, I just graduated from college and I want to pursue studies in Canada. Do I have to have 20,000 plus in my bank account? Well, of course not. It is understandable that as a fresh graduate that you don't have this amount in your bank account unless you are, you belong in a very rich and elite family. But in most cases, fresh graduates are not expected to have this amount in their bank account. So they can have a sponsor. And who could that be? It can be their parents, it can be their uncles, their aunts, grandmother, or whoever, as long as they can prove that they are able or they are capable to finance your studies in Canada. So having a sponsor is very common for those young applicants, especially in their early 20s up to their late 20s. But once you reach your 30s and especially your 40s, it is expected that you are capable to fund your studies yourself. Please do not rely heavily on a sponsor if you are around this age. I would recommend that you apply as self-funded applicant and not have a sponsor. I'm not gonna generalize because I have seen cases that were in their 30s and 40s and were sponsored and still got approved. So this is still a case-to-case basis, but it's just my recommendation. But having a sponsor who will pay for your tuition fee is also different from having a sponsor who will shoulder your accommodation and your food. So there are cases like we have family or relatives in Canada and they agreed to let you stay in their house during your studies. So yeah, you can declare that your food and your lodging during your studies will be shouldered by this family member. So you just have to state that. Okay, so let's talk about the documents that you need. First of all, if you are self-funded, you provide all the proof where your funds are coming from. So if you are self-employed and most of your fund would be coming from your monthly salary, then of course, provide your certificate of employment. And it's better if your salary, either your monthly or your annual salary is stated in the COE, supported with payslips so they can see that this is what you're getting. And then of course, one of the requirements would be your bank statements, at least 6 months according to the IRCC guidelines, so they can cross-reference what they see in your payslip and what they see in your bank statement that comes in every month. If you have other sources of income as well, if you have like online business or a rental property, you also include that. For our case, we had a rental property, so we added the rental agreement and the post-dated checks. So if you are sponsored, what documents do you need from them? Well, first of all, you need an affidavit of support. So this is a letter that states your name and the sponsor's name, and that he or she agrees to sponsor you for your studies in Canada and all that. So they need to sign, and you need to have this notarized. This is not really required. It's not one of the requirements, but it is a good to have document. So once you have that, of course, the sponsor also needs to show where their income is coming from. If the sponsor is employed, then just like a self-funded applicant, the sponsor would need to provide their COE, their pay slips, their bank statements. I know that it can be very personal, that's why it's difficult to have a sponsor, but yeah, if it's just your family member, I think that should be okay, because they need to see that the sponsor is really financially capable to sponsor you. Okay, if the sponsor is not employed, or if he or she is employed and has a business as well, or other sources of income, then you also need to provide that. If the business certificate, the DTI, or business registration, it depends if it's a corporation or, you know, it's just a small business. The financial documents of the business, if they have their own bank statements of the business. And yeah, so all the sources of income of your sponsor, provide everything. The more the merrier. But for those who will only sponsor you for accommodation and food, what documents do you need from them? So first of all, ask them to provide a letter as well as addressed to the visa officer, stating that they are allowing you or actually inviting you to stay with them during the duration of your studies. This is the address and all that. And then provide tenancy agreement if they don't own the house, if they're just renting the house, or property tax if they already own the house. If they will only sponsor you for food, then for example, you're gonna stay in a different place and they agreed to sponsor you on food alone, they can also like submit salary certificate, pay slips, and statement of accounts. So that would be enough. So what about for cases, for example, you were given a large sum of money, like from your parents or from your brother or sister, like they gifted you a big amount as a support for your studies, and you deposited in your account, that would be considered as a bulk deposit. And some would say that is a red flag. But if you are able to explain and provide proof and documentation for this, then it shouldn't be a problem. So if you have these bulk deposits, what documentation can you provide? Well, some will do a deed of donation to show that this amount was given by this specific person. So it's a legal document. Again, correct me if I'm wrong if deed of donation is indeed the right term for that, but there is a legal documentation that they can do and sign and have notarized that states that they gave this certain amount of cash. And it would also help if that person can provide their COE, their pay slips, and their statement, especially the statement where it shows the withdrawal from their bank account, and your statement that shows the deposit. So they can cross-reference it that, oh, this money really came from this person. As you can see, the withdrawal is there and the deposit is there. So yeah, the salary and the COE and ITR would show that they are capable to gift this certain amount of money. So, how do you present your proof of means of financial support? Remember when I did a tutorial on how to lodge your study permit application? If you haven't watched that, I have a 3-part series right over here. And there is a tab for proof of means of financial support. So what would that contain? First of all, I'd suggest on the first page is for you to make a cover letter. This would state everything, summarizes everything, where your funds will be coming from, and yeah, that's basically the purpose of your cover letter. So you make a table summarizing all the primary source of your funds. If it is, for example, a bank account in the Philippines, for example, so put in the peso value but have a Canadian dollar value as equivalent as well. So in the total, when you put a total, the visa officer can right away see that this is the amount that they have, the total amount that they have. So yeah, summarize that, and then you can also put a separate table below for your expected expenses, at least for the first year. So your cost of living, your plane ticket, and everything. So make sure that your available funds is way more than your expected expenses. So you should have, you know, excess. If it's a negative amount, if you get a negative amount, then don't bother applying. So to answer, how much do you need to cover to be on the safe side when you're applying? Even though based on the IRCC guidelines, the bare minimum is 1 year tuition fee plus 1 year cost of living, I would highly recommend if you could cover your whole program's tuition fee. For example, you're taking a 2-year diploma and the tuition fee for 2 years is 40,000 plus 10,000 per year as your cost of living, so that would be 60,000. So the bare minimum for you is just 1 year tuition fee and 10,000 for cost of living. But I would highly recommend to have at least your 2-year tuition fee plus 2-year cost of living. So the visa officer can see that your proof of funds is strong enough. Let me just remind you that having a very strong proof of fund does not equate to an approval of your study permit application. It is just part and parcel of your whole application. So your statement of purpose plus your proof of funds and with its documentation, that is what the visa officer will review and see if you will be eligible. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions, leave them down below. And if you have any more video suggestions about study permit application for Canada, then suggest them down below as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned from this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and follow me on TikTok. Bye, guys.